This is Kenny Castro from Broadstreet. This is a very quick and informal preview of Broadstreet Express, which you might have heard about in our newsletter, maybe via the Facebook group or at a conference over the past year. Broadstreet Express is a new tier that we're launching that includes some of the best features that Broadstreet will have going forward. As you can see, there's some new pricing to consider. Along with that, we also did make some price changes to our ad formats. So some of the popular ad formats, in fact, all of the popular ad formats, YouTube, Scratch-Off, Cube, we have a range of about 35 formats at this point. All of them are free on the Express tier, and that also includes editable ads. So some of our publishers use editable ads very heavily. They used to come about $25 to $50 a piece. Those are absolutely free now. So it's $200 monthly minimum, $50 ad serving fee, whichever is greater between the two at the end of the month becomes your invoice total. So let's just jump right into Express and take a look at some of its features. Here we are inside the Express interface. You can see that visually it is very different than the Broadstreet Lite interface. We have this analytics menu in the sidebar, and we also have this Express exclusive category in the ad format gallery. So you can see the Express exclusive category has some ad formats that aren't going to be available to Broadstreet Lite customers. The sponsor content tracker and analytics tracker. This is a particular ad format that would not be possible without the monthly minimum. On the Broadstreet Express tier. We've built a very powerful analytics engine for tracking metrics on a per ad basis. So views, unique views, text selection, time on page, read complete, link clicks. Those are metrics specific to the sponsor content tracker. You can see the Valentine's Note game. We have metrics like match, failed match, flipped. On the YouTube ad, we now have metrics like for figuring out how much of the video the user actually watched. Did they watch 25, 50, 75%? Did they click on links? We can track all sorts of detailed metrics. And not only can we track the counts, we can tell you exactly where geographically those events took place. We can tell them if they were in your town, if they were across the country, and your advertisers might be very happy to find that about 90% of the engagement that happens with these ads are generally in the geographic area of the publisher. So we have these special ad formats. Of course, they are free, as are the rest of our ad formats. They're all free. So you can see the Scratch-Off, the Cube. Some of these are very popular with our publishers. They are all free. So we have the exclusive ad formats. We have our regular ad formats. Editable ads are also free. Those used to be $25 to $50 a piece. All free now. So and additionally, every single ad tracks some sort of metric that you can use and compile in a very impressive report, which we'll get to in just a bit. So here we are in the analytics interface, which I mentioned before. I had that sidebar menu item, analytics, and underneath that I had advertisements. So when I clicked on that, I had a list of advertisements, and I picked the one that I wanted to take a look at. In this case, it was a sponsor content tracker ad. And all of our ads are available in the analytics interface, but the sponsor content tracker is pretty interesting, and I want to show you in the demo. So we ran this on an article for one of our publishers, and it was toward the end of the day when the article had been published. So we did get some metrics. You can see that we got about 92 views, about 100 views in the first couple of days, and it kind of trailed off after that. And we tracked metrics like how many or which links were clicked in the article. You can see that 39 links were clicked. People who read it completely, unique views and views in total, any text selection, time on page, etc. We also get some interesting charts that show where exactly these events might have taken place. So these are all in the geographical area of the publisher that we ran the content tracker on. So let's get into something pretty interesting. I want to see how many people read the entire article and where they came from. So you can see most of them came from Red Bank, New Jersey, where this publisher is located. Edison, Rumson, New York. There are some commuters who live in Red Bank or the surrounding area and work in New York, Belmar, Long Branch, Fairhaven, and Lincroft. These are all neighboring towns. And not only can you see the breakdown of where they are geographically, you can actually see the individual readers. So you can see we had someone in Rumson, New Jersey, East Brunswick, Wilmington. You get the entire list, and you get so this is a very nice way to go back to your advertiser with metrics. Think about when you go back to your advertiser for renewal and you say, oh, your ad got 300 clicks, and a lot of times it's a very mysterious number. It could have been the publisher clicking on the ad 300 times. This is proof that those clicks are coming from the geographic area that your publication exists in. So those are very powerful metrics that you can use, and not only can you see that these events did take place in the area, you can actually explore the individual user. So for this user in East Brunswick, New Jersey, we can actually go in here and see their entire interaction with an ad. We can see that it was pretty basic. They arrived on the page, they read the content. That particular time it was a unique view. They read the entire content, and then they spent a certain amount of time on the page. There's actually a milliseconds, and this will be formatted in a way that is human readable going forward, but you can see we do have those metrics, so you can kind of see the entire interaction of a user with a particular ad, and it's a pretty powerful thing. So this is in the interface, but let's take a look at some of the reports we can generate for these advertisements next. Here we are looking at an editable ad on Broadstreet, and if you aren't familiar, editable ads are ads that kind of change dynamically. They'll read an advertiser's Facebook page and look for posts, and they'll pull in the latest post and integrate that message into the editable ad. And there are ways to filter what does get pulled into the ad, but this advertiser uses it to advertise his daily lunch specials. So he's very happy with the editable ads. He's been using them for a few years. And of course, I mentioned on Express that they are cost-free. So you can use editable ads as much as you'd like, and they're absolutely free. But let's take a look at the reports, because I want to show you some of the reports that are now available. Here's that analytics page. You can get straight to the analytics page through the advertisement page, but let's click on Get Downloadable Report. So you can see that we have the header. This is actually the publisher's white-labeled logo that the publisher uploaded. That's something you couldn't do in the past with Express. You couldn't upload your own logo and have a white-labeled report. Now you can. And you can take a look at the performance. And so we have the summary of performance at the very top. You can see you got something like 230K views, hovers, clicks. And we highlight the fact that the click-through rate is pretty high compared to the global average display ad performance of 0.06%. So we understand that not all advertisers are savvy enough to understand what a good click-through rate is and isn't. Sometimes they'll look at the number and think that they performed very poorly, when in fact 0.09 is a pretty good click-through rate. You can see the core events by day. So core events are just the standard events that you might expect in an advertisement report: views, clicks, hovers, something visual that the advertiser can look at. Then a breakdown by city. So let's see exactly where these events are taking place. Red Bank, New York, Lincroft, Eatontown. Most of these towns are at least 1 or 2 towns away from where this particular advertiser is located. And because it's an editable ad, you'll also see the text log. So you can see that based on the message that the advertiser posted, some of them perform much or some of them are actually much more performant than others. You can see some have a higher click-through rate, some have a fairly low click-through rate, and an advertiser can sort of get a sense of what is working, what isn't working in terms of advertisements. So we have the text logs. Different ad types will display different metrics in these reports, but something that all ads will actually report is that detailed click data. So we saw this in the analytics page, but it's also compiled into the report for the given date range. The date range set is up here. So you can see the detailed click data. So this is something that you can easily email to your advertisers at the end of a campaign, and I'll get to the different reporting options right after this, but take a look at the click data. You can see a lot of them come from the town that this publisher and advertiser is in, some in surrounding areas. Some are likely people who work in New York but live in the general area. And you get the full list of everyone who clicked on that ad. And if I do want to forward it to a publisher or to an advertiser, all I have to do is go up here and click this download button, and you'll get the exact same report. That was a web view. You'll get this exact same report in PDF form. So let's just wait for that. It takes a few seconds to generate the PDF, and when it does, you get this nice PDF, the exact same thing, the nice charts, and all of those text logs right here. So you can just send that off to the publisher at the end of the campaign. Now, speaking of sending reports at the end of campaigns, we've actually automated that process for you. So let me get to that. Here we are on the advertiser's account page inside Broadstreet, and if I click on edit up here, you'll see something that most of our publishers didn't have available previously. You can now have reports automatically sent out, and we have a feature coming out that'll do this at the end of a campaign. But you can see they have weekly, monthly, and quarterly reports. So I can check off one of these. A lot of publishers, it's kind of a time saver if you just want automatic performance reports going out to your advertisers, especially the ones who are a bit more savvy and kind of want that data. So we could check these off and also take a look at an example of the kind of report that would be generated. So in this case, you can see that this is a quarterly report that was generated by Broadstreet automatically. You can see this goes out. In this case, there's a quarterly report, so once a quarter. You can also have this sent out weekly, and it'll say, the week starting at this date. And it'll essentially email the publisher and the advertiser a summary of performance, but also attach that performance PDF. And of course, this is white labeled. It won't say Broadstreet for Express customers. It'll have your logo at the top of the report. And it's a nice PDF with the same event charts that we saw before, the click-through rates, that little note displaying what is a good click-through rate. If it is a poor click-through rate, which does happen sometimes, it's poor placement on the page or something like that, we just show the click-through rate. We don't highlight the fact that it was a bad click-through rate or anything like that. We still show that breakdown by city, any text logs. These are just this is all just test data, but just to give you an example of what does get sent out by email. So you have these very professional looking and informative reports that your competition, it is guaranteed that they do not provide this level of data in their reports. So we really want to provide the tools that our publishers can use to set the bar higher than anyone else in their area is setting it. All right, so now we're going to take a look at some of the targeting features that our publishers now have available to them. Here we are on the campaign page for the same advertisement that we saw before. Before we click into edit this campaign where we'll see the targeting features, take a look at this performance box right here. There are two new reports, the web report, so it's the same report that we saw before, and the PDF, the downloadable version of those reports. The only difference here is that for these campaign reports, the web version and the PDF version, they both contain all of the ads, so information for all of the ads in a campaign. So before we just saw a report for a single ad, this is for multiple ads in a campaign. So right now it's a 30-day extended report. You can adjust the date range. You can also, in the next week, we'll probably make this 30-day actually map to the start date and end date of the campaign. So instead of being a 30-day report by default, it'll just map to the natural start date and end date of the campaign if they exist. So same report before, only it contains multiple ads in a campaign. So we'll click into edit this campaign now. Let's see, we have the standard start date and end date information. You can set an impression cap down here. The keywords, so keywords are a more sophisticated feature that only used to be available on the authority tier. So that was basically big networks and some of our larger publishers. So keywords are very useful for targeting campaigns to specific sections of your site. So let's just say you have a police and fire section, or maybe you have classifieds, whatever the different categories on your site are. It does require a little bit of setup on the WordPress end, but once you have it up and running, you can target ads to specific sections of your site. And it's pretty flexible. There are a lot of different ways you can target. You can see this box down here. It says keyword exclusivity. I won't get too deeply into that, but it's in our documentation, which will explain how exactly keywords work and the different scenarios you can set up. We also have weighting, so you can weight some campaigns higher than others. And the next week for Express customers only will allow you to customize these weights very specifically. So right now it's kind of generic, high, default, low. In our documentation we explain what those actually mean and how the impressions will be distributed under different use cases, but you'll be able to fine-tune those in the next week. And then most importantly, this is one of our most requested features, is geotargeting. So you can actually target by, it's very zip code oriented right now, or city oriented. So if I wanted to use 07701, it's Red Bank, New Jersey, where this particular publisher is, we can set a radius. So if we will set a radius, zip code targeting is generally very accurate, but we provide a radius so you can get everyone in a given area. You can add multiple zip codes. You can search by city too. I think you have to type at least 3 characters for that. Let's try and find, let's see, what's a neighboring town? Fairhaven? So we'll do Fairhaven. So Fairhaven, New Jersey, we can find that. So there are a few different ways we can search, different ways we can target. If we add those geo-targets, we can make sure that this campaign only displays to users in this area. Some publishers have really like the idea of geo-targeting all of their campaigns. I don't personally have a preference. I think sometimes people are on business and they're reading your site away, and it could be taking away from page views. I mean, an advertisement is relevant to somebody, usually relevant to someone whether they're in town or not, but geotargeting is a much requested feature that we have released in Express. So while we are on the topic of campaigns, something that you can also have is a reminder of when your campaigns also expire. So this page is actually available in Express. You can see recent campaign expirations, upcoming campaign expirations. But if I go to edit the network, we can see down here that you can get campaign status emails. So you can receive a daily report of campaigns that are going to expire or expiring today or have expired in the last 7 days. So you can stay on top of the campaigns that you have to renew. That's a new convenience feature we're making available in Express. So that almost rounds out most of the core features at Express. There are some convenience features such as advertiser archiving. If you have an advertiser who isn't advertising with you anymore, or one of their ads isn't relevant anymore, you can actually archive those. That's just a convenience feature that we've made available. But one of the most powerful features, and one of the features that we've gotten the most questions about, is the ad blocker invisibility, which I'll get to next. Here we are on Broadstreet's Sandbox site. You can see at the top left in the address bar it says sandbox.broadstreetads.com. On the top right you have Adblock Plus, this little stop sign right here, and you can see that it is enabled for this site, but it has blocked 0 ads. But there are ads on the page, and these are Broadstreet's ads being actively served. It's estimated somewhere between 10 and 15% of a site's readers, in the worst case, use ad blockers, and a lot of times there's probably a good reason for it. There are some sites that are a bit obtrusive with ads, where you go to the page and it's got so many ads popping up in your face you can't in fact leave the page. A lot of times you can't leave them. Broadstreet's ads aren't that obtrusive. If obtrusive at all, these are pretty mild-mannered ads, and we're against ad blockers, especially for local publishers, because they're important voices in their community, and most of them are wholly supported by advertising. So obviously ad blocking is detrimental to our publishers, and we believe for a lot of philosophical reasons that users shouldn't be using ad blockers, especially on our clients' websites. So this is ad blocker invisibility. Pretty easy to set up. It does require Broadstreet's assistance, but if and when you want to implement this on your site, we'll be there to help out. It takes about a few hours to get going. So that wraps it up for the core of Express's features. If you have any questions, you can email kenny@broadstreetads.com. Keep in mind that Express, it comes at a slightly higher cost than most publishers will be paying, but our entire goal is to help you set the bar so high that your competitors cannot reach it. We want you to help you impress your advertisers when you're pitching them. So when you're going to sell the ads and you show them those ad formats, or you mock up an ad and you can show them the ad on their site, which is far and away better than what any of your competition is doing. And when it comes to renewal time at the end of the campaign, you can show them a very detailed report of all of the metrics collected on their ads. It's a very powerful package, and we're only going to be building on it. Like I said, we still have features that are coming to Express. You might have heard about Laser Beam and a few others. So if you have any questions, Kenny at broadstreetads.com. We're offering most of our publishers a brief trial period so you can try out some of the features of Express before you commit to it. Like I said, there is a year-long commitment, but we want our publishers to be comfortable before they commit to it. And we also want them to see some of the extra features that will be added in the next few days. So like I said, Kenny at broadstreetads.com if you have any questions, and I hope this demo clarified some of the different features that are available in Express.